there ever a hesitation trading within the division like this with the Eagles a little more so than any other team around, or is it?
No, not if that's the trade. The trade which answers your question. You're looking for the value there. And so there was no, that wasn't a hesitation. That's probably nailing it a little tight there when you've got 3 or 4 other considerations. You're trying to get the most value for the pick and get the best player. Of course, at the same time, we had our eye, as Stephen said, we had our eye on Micah and didn't want to get too far down that road to go there. We could have gone ahead and really worked at moving on down and around and picked up more picks. And that was a possibility there and remained because of the quality of the players that were there on the board. But we had resolved that and had thought in general, we had the 10th pick, and boy, we want to get a unique or a player that's substantive relative to his upside, substantive to what we could do with him. Michael addressed that, but we just didn't have the stomach to risk losing him relative to our valuation on him. And so, or otherwise you might have seen us make 2 or 3 smaller trades and move on down and still be in the money, but not in his kind of money. He was
Micah, how much time did you spend anticipating what was going to happen to the cornerbacks at 8 and 9 and think about trying to inch ahead of 8 and 9?
A lot. We've been talking about the quarterbacks being gone at 8 and 9 since for days, but certainly today is the day coming, and we intensively talked about the possibility all day long and be ready, and there were no surprises here or no consternation about that. Under certain circumstances, we wanted to make this pick for this player.
The thing I'd add to that, Mike, is we were really pleased with what was on our board. I mean, obviously, the need, stuck out a little bit with the corners, but, we had some players that were rated ahead of the corners on natural grades, but so we felt comfortable waiting.
Conversations with number 6, but let's talk with the team at 6 and see if we can get ahead of 8, 9.
No, we weren't wanting to give up what it would take to get up there.
Right. I don't blame
How surprised? I guess you weren't surprised when you saw.
I will answer that. It was not as long as we got. Frankly, what we got done, we didn't want to spend anything to get up as long as we can get him to go get those corners. We did not.
You can imagine if what we got to move 2 spots back, what it would have cost to go from 10 to 6.
Yeah.
Was Parsons rated higher than the corners on your board?
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
Now, you guys say that every year.
Well, the only thing I can do with you is, would you like to walk down? I'll tell you what I'll do. No, I'm not going to let you walk down there free, okay? If you got 1,000. We won't announce. We'll just both walk down there together and have them I'll tell them turn the lights off till you get there, and we'll flip it on.
They said Parsons was rated higher than
ways of figuring out if that was right or not.
He was.
I mean, Mike is a dynamic player, and I think clearly when you watch him play, he's a multi-positional player. I mean, he obviously can play on the ball as a linebacker. He has natural pass rush skills. I mean, that's something, we're talking about really about the last 10 days, preparing for, what was going to go on after 7 in this draft.
I can
obviously
only imagine.
Playing off the ball. I mean, he's an impact rusher inside and outside. He can play in the bubble. He can play behind the 3 technique. So there's, he gives us a lot of flex ability to line up with the other linebackers. So he's a dynamic. He's a pressure player, and he's definitely going to make an impact for us on defense.
He can be in that DPR role.
He can, yeah. I mean, he can train with those traits. He definitely has DPR traits. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, you see him play off the ball mostly in Penn State, but that is definitely that's what I was referring to as having natural pass rush skills. So, and once again, I can't say enough. He's dynamic. He can play the Sam, the Mike, and the Will. Whether he's covered up in the bubble, whether he's playing to the open guard,
they don't
or
have the lot
he's
of
playing
kicking,
the DPR.
man. God
so
damn, they don't have the lot
this
of
gives us
kicking,
the multiple looks to getting in and out of different personnels. Obviously, a good matchup player too. I mean, there's obviously his speed and ability to cover. So. is a great piece.
Does his presence change the plan for Keanu O'Neal? Might he play more safety earlier than you guys initially were envisioning?
I mean, once again, you don't line up with just 11. You definitely, when you look at playing the game, we get in the regular season, you're going to be playing with 13, 14, 15 starters. So it gives us multiple personnel group flexibility. Same with Neal. I mean, these guys, to be able to come out of the back end and come up and play the will linebacker, the dime linebacker. So a lot of flexibility there.
How much of what you did tonight affects what you could do with Banderich on Monday?
It makes us better. I mean, it makes us better. I mean, your base defense, whether you play with 3 linebackers off the ball or 2 off the ball, 1 on the ball. I mean, it just, once again, I try not to be redundant here. He just gives us tremendous position flexibility. So it definitely makes Leighton and Jalen better.
But from the financial end with the 5th-year option?
I don't think it affects it. I mean, we'll make a decision on Leighton, and we will, make that decision when the time comes. And we've got some discussions to have on that, period.
Yeah, that's...
No bearing.
Yeah. On Tuesday that whether a player opted out was definitely a consideration in the draft. How did that factor in tonight? And I guess on the flip side, what did you like about Micah so much that didn't stop you from taking him?
Well, his makeup, his way he approaches the game was an attention getter. Obviously, physically, he is a freak. And you've heard it and you've said it and you said he really has that. And just my perspective, I wanted a player there that really impacted strategy, that had a way for us to load it up and give just give unique problems because of the nature. So he gives us that kind of upside, and he's got the right approach to making that happen. And I don't envision anything but and Mike keeps going back to it. We just got better. We might have gotten better just by circumstances, and we even could have managed to get better by going with him as opposed to with a corner at this spot.
Was there a thought about trying to get back in the first round after you made the decision tonight?
No, we're not. Now our phones are open. If and people are calling and now, so well, I've had them and we've had them. Would you like to get back in the first round? Those kinds of things. And so, but we haven't entertained that. Don't anticipate that.
While it wasn't surprising that the corners were gone the way you guys mapped it out, was it still disappointing to see them go, considering those guys were, even if they weren't as highly rated on the board as Parsons?
Well, I will speak for myself there, but any bit of sensitivity about them being gone had been talked over carefully and with complete honesty within ourselves. We thought that Parsons would immediately turn the light on for optimism about what we could do with our offense. And so when we saw that Surtain and Parsons was there, well, we knew we had it was going to be a good time for us there. But bottom line is that I can tell you from my standpoint right now, I'm excited to get that rare individual with that rare attitude that he's got. I'm excited about having him on defense. If you've got to get up there and draft at this level, I'm excited about what he does for us. He can do a lot of damage or impact to the identity of this defense. He has that type of talent and rare skills. And so that's good. I don't want to take away from any other player that might have been out there, but arguably being that have that kind of stature is where we had him graded on our draft board as a defensive player, and it's production, but it's also you've got to look at the physical advantages that he has in this game.
Is he a leader? What kind of leadership do you expect him to bring and develop into over the course of his time here?
I look for him to develop as a leader. I look for our whole locker room to develop at some role as a leader. We talked about this as a team, actually today in our team meeting. Leadership is a responsibility for everybody. I mean, there's different types, different styles, but he'll definitely come in as a rookie and have the opportunity to grow as a leader.
How much did y'all investigate the quote-unquote character concerns with the allegations or whatever else that he had up there?
We did a tremendous amount of homework. We felt really good about anything he had that there might be a concern about. We did backwards, forwards, every which way you can do it.
How do you feel about the corners in general that are still available in this corner class? Obviously many thought you'd get one in the first round, but obviously you have a lot of picks in the second, third round. How do you feel about what could still be out there for you at that position?
I think we feel good about it. I mean, we've done a lot of work on our board, and that's why we followed our board when we picked Micah. And I think there's a lot of good football players that we can get out there. We've got 5 picks in the top 100 picks. So we should really be able to improve our football team. And I do think there's going to be some great opportunities to fill that corner need at some point.
I was going to ask, what does that do for you to have that many picks on day 2? Is there the ability to potentially move up and package all these picks that you have, or just take advantage of the sweet spot in the draft?
Anytime you're in our situation where now we've got the high-end quarterback that's getting paid like a high-end quarterback, which he so well deserves. We've got obviously some great players in the offensive line that are getting paid. We've got D-Law, we've got Zeke, we've got we need draft picks. We need draft picks that we can have come in here and really make a difference. And I think that's what we can do. We've taken a lot of pride in the way we've drafted over the last 10 years, and I think we put a lot of work into our board in terms of how we've set it up. And I think if we just stick to all the work that we put into it, in particular our coaches and our scouts here, Jerry and myself, the last 3 or 4 weeks, and then, of course, all the work they put into it over the past year, I think we're going to get really good football players. And I think we just got to, keep steady in the boat and make the picks.
Jerry, Stephen, were you guys at the Cotton Bowl that Micah played in? Were you guys at that game?
I was not.
I was not at the game, but we were aware that he had played in the Cotton Bowl, and were reminded of that he had. But I want to say one other thing here, too. We did have, including him, not that we were going to do it, but we had 4 other scenarios that we would have if at the time of our pick, if both those corners had been there, that we would have done something else. We had 4 different scenarios. That now, we were missing something in that conversation, and that's what the other clubs were doing at that particular time. But scenarios that had us moving forward, and we had we'd be moving forward. We could always use the pick if, in fact, he's still there for Micah, and then move on into it. So when you ask the question about what's left in the draft, looking forward over the next few days, we've really aired that out good, and we're ready for that.
Mike, you did the draft last year, I guess, at Green Bay, and Jerry, you were on a yacht. You did the draft last year, I guess, wherever else, and you were on a yacht. How good was it to be kind of normal, in a sense, this go around?
Don't answer that damn question. Nobody care about a yacht. Look, they said on that interview that they had Micah Parsons higher than both of the 2 corners. I'm going to let that sink in. And shout out to the Parsons fans. I pray and hope that they're right and all of us are wrong. That's all I'm saying. So I don't know if they're trying to just circle the wagon. So you mean to tell me if Surtain and J.C. Horn was there, they would have still went with Parsons?
Yeah.
Was Parsons rated higher than the corners on your board?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. definitely.
Were you like us when you heard of the Aaron Rodgers news and Mike, just what's going on up in Green Bay? Do y'all take a pause from the draft, and does that shock you? But that.
Yes, for me?
Yes, both of you guys.
It's a good news story. Good.
I didn't know if Jerry wanted to get in on that action. I mean, there's so much attention up there, and everything was quiet.
You don't care about Green
Jerry
Bay,
told me
man.
when I got her, all news is good news. So
come on, man.
He's better.
Stop asking these
you
crazy
can answer
questions.
this one a lot better than I can.
Totally.
Mike, there are no flashbacks on the Brett Favre stuff that you guys had to go through up there when the Aaron stuff came about?
Nobody cares about Green Bay.
That was an experience that focus on the Cowboys, Dallas Cowboys.
On Micah,
Like they should be.
How did you work through the potential mental obstacle of drafting a player who opted out, and it's been so long since his most recent game film? How did you guys come to feel comfortable with that?
You had to. I mean, I think it was part of the evaluation process, and I give Will and the whole personnel staff so much credit on just the way they laid it out, and just we had all the information. Jerry spoke on this the other day. The medical, frankly, was the hardest part. I think, in my personal opinion, you have to look at each player individually. Why they opted out, because there are so many different circumstances. I think you have to look at it, you listen to it, but you have to evaluate the information that you had, and we feel great about having Micah join our football team.
Mike, there have been some comparisons to Bobby Wagner for him in the Dan Quinn scheme. Do you see that?
Bobby Wagner?
Is that kind of what he could be for a Dan Quinn defensive scheme?
Yeah, I don't exactly recall Bobby, the pressure player he was coming out, but I think Bobby Wagner is an extraordinary football player, and he was one of my favorite defensive players to compete against. We had some battles against that Seattle defense, and he's a really good pressure player. So I do think it's a good comparable because, they never really asked Bobby to go wide and play the same DPR, but I'm not saying he couldn't, because that wasn't part of the scheme where, Micah does have that ability, and that's definitely part of our defense that we will carry over from last year.
Oh, Bobby
Micah mentioned on our call, I think, that he only talked to the team once virtually. Between not having the 30-day visits and only having that one visit with him, is this the least y'all have gotten to know personal or directly a player who you've drafted in the first round?
I think that's fair for anyone, right? I mean,
Yeah.
because we didn't have the combine, we didn't have the 35 visits. Yeah, I think that's accurate.
Mike,
That'd be fair.
Mike, you referenced on Tuesday speed and energy, a couple traits you're looking for on the defensive side of the ball. I assume that Micah helps in that area and trying to upgrade the defense.
Bingo. I mean, I don't know how better to say it. I mean, he's got unbelievable speed and energy. He plays the game the way we want to play on defense, the way we're going to play on defense. And outside of his ability to be an impact player, he goes and gets the football. You can see it in pass coverage. I mean, our number one focus is turnover differential. Always will be every day. And we just added a player that is outstanding at going and taking the football away or hits on the football. He's an impact player.
Stephen, you've now got a big bundle of picks coming up. On the one hand, there's some logic saying give us the most darts and give us the most chances. On the other hand, there's some logic, cap-wise, to packaging those picks and trying to get a little more quality instead of quantity.
Cap-wise, the logic would be to take each one of them because that gives us the opportunity to, have very valuable players at a low price. And hopefully they beat out veteran players and that type of situation. But if the right guy's sitting there and, we want to go get a guy, it certainly gives you the ammunition to make a move if we see a guy, hey, this is the guy we want. We're still about 8-9 picks out. Don't think he'll make it to us. Let's go get him. And we've done that before. I mean, we're certainly not opposed to doing that. Just costs so much up in that top 10 to move slots. And, of course, our bigger thing was we knew those corners could go, but they were still sitting there. They were still sitting there. They were still sitting there. And we like Micah.
Jerry, Micah said he'd like to continue to wear number 11. Obviously not a traditional linebacker number that's changed in the league. Would you be okay with that? And what's your thoughts on the guys being able to wear different numbers now than they have in the past?
Well, I was big on 88 last year. Had a personal reason, a great friend of mine. I lost him. That was a great 88 player. Yeah. And then, of course, just 88. I'm not there on this matter on a personal basis at all. I will say, though, there's a lot to consider. As you know, we do a great job of our players and their visibility and their identification with their numbers. We do. The Cowboys do. And so there's other considerations that are made there, and those guys have to negotiate those changes. And so sometimes it is a good enough deal for them to want to change. Sometimes it isn't. And we usually, as you know, between players, let them work that out between players. When one's got it and the other one's got. We'll have to, if anybody wants 9, we'll have to represent Romo on this side of the table.
How would you
for that? How would you represent Romo? We would determine how much it's worth to have number 9 on, so to speak. But we are very aware of what happens relative to the personality's identification with a number, and it's not frivolous. So it'll be considered, but certainly genuinely considered. But will have to be considered in light of some of the other things that you do, and not the least of which is of all the things that are out here that have that identification with that personality, with that number. And we're pretty sensitive about 12 around here. We're pretty sensitive about 8 around here. We're 22 and those numbers. And so those are decisions that we'll make as a club.
2 things, guys. We're expecting Micah here for a 3 p.m. press conference tomorrow afternoon.
3 p.m.
And Brad Sham has weighed in via text. He was at the Cotton Bowl, and he did his research on Micah and thinks the guy's a beast. So if anybody wants further verification, give Brad a call.
Tomorrow we'll bring our own photographers, or it'll be your photographer?
No, you can bring a photographer tomorrow. Thank you.
Get out the way, pig. Let me get this.
All right. There was Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, head coach Mike McCarthy addressing Cowboys media after the Dallas Cowboys select linebacker Micah Parsons in the first round from Penn State with the 12th selection. We're closing out coverage here on the